Hi, I'm personal trainer YUJI.
There is one thing you absolutely should not do in strength training. I always look around and see that many people are making this mistake. The reason this is the number one thing to avoid in strength training is that almost everyone is doing it. Since most people are doing this, I really hope they refrain from doing it. But well, that's how it is. Well, looking around, I see that about 90 to 95% of people are already doing this, and I really want to emphasize that this is something you should avoid. This is the essence of balance. When doing strength training, whether it's on a machine, with dumbbells, or with a barbell, many people end up just moving the weights, without actually engaging the muscles. They are moving only the weights while the muscles are not working. In this case, it doesn't really count as effective strength training. I will now explain this with specific examples and discuss what can be done to improve the situation. For instance, let's take the pectoralis major. The same applies to the bench press, dumbbell press, and chest press. Before performing these exercises, whether sitting for the chest press or lying down for the bench press, it's important to focus on training the pectoralis major. Many people think they are about to do the dumbbell press or bench press and they might be sitting or lying down. But when it comes time to actually perform the exercise, they completely forget about engaging the muscles. They may think about it in words, but during the execution, they are just lifting the weights without proper engagement. Clearly, just going through the motions without activating the muscle fibers in the correct order. It's quite common to see people lifting in this way. In fact, it's almost the norm. What this means is that they think as long as they can lift the weight, that's enough. So they raise it all the way up and bring it down completely. However, at that point, the load has already diminished. Additionally, their shoulders rise and their chest sinks. This is often seen in exercises like the dumbbell press or bench press. So, while the distance the dumbbells move is considerable, the question is whether this actually provides the proper load for the pectoralis major to effectively stretch and contract. That's right. Simply moving the dumbbells or the bar without engaging the muscles is meaningless. The most important thing is to ensure that the muscles are properly contracting and to check if the weight is being effectively lifted. If you don't do that, the results won't change. So, how can you achieve this? I want you to focus on two things. First, look at anatomical diagrams. In fact, if you just search online for pectoralis major anatomical diagram, you'll find plenty of images like those with red muscles depicted. At a glance, the details may not seem important, but if you observe where the muscles are located and how the muscle fibers run, you can grasp it in one look. First, you need to examine this. You must understand it, and it can be simple. The second point is to have a comprehensive image. You should view it from a distance objectively, and while performing the exercises, you need to maintain that comprehensive image in your mind. For the pectoralis major, this starts from the inner center and extends to the area around the arm's root. It's like Venus is moving in a fan-like motion. From the shoulder joint, it spreads out like a folding fan. We need to properly understand that Venus is moving in that direction and that it contracts in that direction. This elongation is happening. Therefore, when performing the dumbbell press on a flat bench, especially in the middle position, the muscle fibers are most effectively engaged in a diagonal direction. We need to mentally focus on contracting and stretching the muscles in that direction. You shouldn't do it that way. So, even when you're actually lying down and doing this with the dumbbells, I think it's okay to visualize about 20% of the time. However, about 80% of the focus should be on this muscle, especially the line in the middle about 5 cm wide, which contracts and extends. The triceps assist in this, and if you push a little, your forearm just happens to be resting vertically on top, and the dumbbell is just resting on top of that. So when you push the dumbbell, it's not just about extending or closing the arms. Closing means the arms are collapsing. This is quite common, and we want to avoid that. Once the contraction is finished, the focus should be on resisting and extending. The contraction and extension are the primary actions, and everything else comes as a supplementary aspect afterward. There are people who move their bodies in this order. First, they should visualize the direction in which the anatomical muscle fibers run, while maintaining a comprehensive image. While drawing, it's important to have an image as if you are looking down at yourself from above. This is necessary. Now, in the case of the side raise, it's quite common to see people lifting the weights incorrectly. Here, the elbows are not raised, and only the dumbbells are being lifted. Moreover, instead of lifting straight up against gravity, they often lift at an angle towards the back. However, it is essential to lift vertically as the shoulder deltoids engage from the upper part. There are three main sections: the front, the middle, and the back. Venus flows continuously from the front to the back. In the case of side raises, the focus is on the middle muscle. You contract and stretch this middle muscle in the direction of the muscle fibers while resisting. The side raises involve contracting and stretching, but they do not move forward. The gravity is pulling this way, so it doesn't mean that the triangular muscle on the backside is getting shorter. Therefore, while visualizing the lateral muscles contracting and extending, this area is the contracting team. As this contracts, the elbow of the upper arm rises. Beyond that, the forearm, which is fixed in position, comes up, and at the end of that, it just happens to be holding a dumbbell. This is about 1, 2, 3, 4. Things come up in order, right? If we reverse this and start with the dumbbell, it ends up like this. By the way, the reason this happens is that when humans go about their daily lives and perform tasks, the goal is to complete a specific task, not to use the intermediate steps. This is especially true for tasks done with the hands in their 40s and 50s, such as computer work. After doing such tasks for 20 or 30 years, the use of the hands becomes separate from other activities. I can do it well, but I need to focus on the intermediate part. There isn't really a specific area to concentrate on during that intermediate phase. Therefore, the opportunities to practice and use that part have been limited. So even when holding dumbbells, it's common for the force to start from the fingertips and move sequentially, which can happen. However, in strength training, if you want to develop the muscles in this area, you need to do the exact opposite. This means focusing on the latter part. For example, when doing arm curls, it's not just about lifting the dumbbells. You shouldn't be using your back or extending your elbows too much. Even if the elbows are raised and the dumbbells are lifted, the muscles are not contracting or stretching at all. The triceps extend from the shoulder joint all the way down to the elbow. This is almost a straight vertical line in terms of direction, but the key is to visualize the contraction and extension. When you contract, the base of the muscle is pulled upward. Just grip the dumbbell tightly that you're holding. It means that as long as you grip it, it will come up, so the dumbbell doesn't need to rise too much. Therefore, to be honest, when I do arm curls, even if I contract like this, if I count from the bottom, it usually ends around 3-4 of the way up. If it goes above 3-4, then my elbows are probably already raised. At that point, I'm not contracting any further. So, it hasn't really risen much. It's not about whether it rises or not, but whether I can contract. It's important to check your hands while performing the anchor move. During the shoulder press, the goal is not just to push the dumbbells up. Unlike the third raise, the arms rotate, and as they do, the side part faces backward while the front area of the tube points toward the ceiling. This part, which is opposite to gravity, is directed upward, affecting the entire upper and middle sections. It means that the muscles are contracting. It's important to have a proper understanding of this up to this point, and then to contract them. The triceps help with this, and the forearm is positioned vertically above. The dumbbell is simply resting on top of the forearm. The muscles here are pushing up, which is why it rises. Without this support, when the weight is lifted, it could cause the body to lean inward, or the body might shift backward, or push forward. That's right. Well, whether it's the central muscle or not, this also requires a comprehensive image. Then there's the lying French press. When lying down and performing the lying French press for the triceps, it often happens that the elbows move too much, shifting this way and that. In such cases, the triceps are not really contracting and relaxing at all. If you think you should just lift the dumbbells for the triceps, the elbows should be positioned here, but instead, they move this way. The PG is not here but moving over there, so it looks like the shoulder press is just creating a shape where the triceps are extending the arms as the deltoids contract to lift the dumbbells. It feels like the position of the elbows is shifting. Well, this is quite common. The triceps, of course. And basically from the back of the shoulder here, it runs vertically. It does spread out a bit, but it extends vertically and connects to the elbows. In this context, it's about how the muscles develop, and when performing this lying French press, the focus is on whether the muscles contract properly. The idea is to bring the elbows back as if aiming for 180 degrees. It's not about imagining lifting the dumbbells. Therefore, the hands are not the focus. When the muscles are maximally contracted, the elbows should be imagined as bending to about 108 degrees, creating a tight contraction that feels intense. Then, as they are stretched, they will resist. This process of contraction should be thought of in sequence. It seems like it. The focus is now on the back. There is a lot of emphasis on the back, isn't there? When you look at the lat pull down at the gym, it's almost 100% of people doing it, probably around 99% or so. I think maybe 1 in 1,000 or 10,000 is actually enjoying it, but nearly everyone is doing the lat pull down. This is the state we are in. This is the state. It's not like this. Even if you understand it somewhat, you might not really know if you understand it or not, but if you aren't doing it, it almost becomes 100%. Now, the latissimus dorsi, which is part of the back, is shaped like it's attached from the inner part towards the center of a fan, pointing towards the base of the arm. So, the muscle fibers are somewhat spread out in that shape. In the case of the lat pull-down, the movement is directed relatively downward from the shoulder joint. You are essentially using your strength to pull down. Therefore, you need to first visualize this direction of contraction. Initially, as the arms contract, the elbows lower, and the bar, which happens to be hooked, is pulled down in the front half of the movement. The sequence is important here. The assistance comes from the triceps, which help to push down slightly. Pushing down refers to pressing the bar down, similar to how you would push down with your triceps. That's the general idea. Yes, there is a sequence of 1, 2, 3, 4. You need to have the image of the muscles contracting and relaxing in that order. When viewing from behind, you need to visualize this. In the case of the one-arm row, the latissimus dorsi is relatively higher up, with the muscle fibers from the center to the upper part pulling at the base of the arm and contracting, which becomes the main focus. If you only focus on pulling at the base of the arm without bending the elbow, the arm will look like this. If the elbow doesn't bend, nothing happens. It feels like just pulling at the base of the arm. This feels like the pectoralis major is contracting. First, this is what we have. As I do this, well, I'm currently extending my arms, so I'm applying force in the opposite direction at 3 o'clock. But even if I relax, it stays about this much. Right now, I'm not holding anything, and it feels like this. I'm pulling from the shoulder joint, and the elbow is in a natural position, and I just happen to grab a dumbbell, which got caught and fixed in place. Now, if I only move the average part, it looks like this. Simply pulling the arms by contracting the latissimus dorsi muscle fibers in the direction of the cat's muscle fibers results in a natural arm position, without doing anything. Assist with the forearm and the brachioradialis to push in. It's not about pushing the dumbbell in. Rather, the appreciation comes from pushing the dumbbell in. It's not like that. You help by pushing the base of the arm in the direction of the muscle fibers with the biceps and the brachioradialis. It's important to remember that this is just assistance. By doing this, the contraction of the latissimus dorsi becomes the main focus. You should raise your elbows a bit higher, but not so much that they go beyond your body. It's essential to maintain a comprehensive image centered around the latissimus dorsi. Additionally, when performing Bulgarian squats, some people tend to lean forward, and they often lack the mental image of muscle contraction. While it is possible to engage the quadriceps, many individuals probably only visualize pushing with their legs. It's not just about the action, it's really about the gluteus maximus in your mind. The gluteus maximus is attached here, and honestly, from top to bottom, it actually forms an outward V shape. This is what causes the legs to move in this way. When you engage the gluteus maximus to pull at the hip joint, it results in this movement. While imagining that shape, it feels like the gluteus maximus is pulling here, which pushes the heel down. The dumbbell we talked about earlier is like the one you see here. By pulling here, you can push down, and because you pull here, you can push with your heels. The quadriceps mainly assist in this process. By providing this assistance, you help with the pulling and pushing up here, which in turn pushes against the ground. If you focus on this, the Bulgarian squat will become even more effective. As for the deadlift, it primarily uses the hamstrings and lower back muscles, but a common issue when doing this is, when I think about lowering the bar, I end up hunching my back. This again becomes the goal of lowering the barbell or dumbbell. However, it's not necessary to lower the dumbbells or bar too much. How far you lower them is not important at all. The focus should not be on stretching the muscles of the lower back or the back. Rather, it's about feeling them fixed and supported. Therefore, keep the lower back and back tight, maintaining a fixed position with the spine aligned. It's just about how far you can go without disengaging the hip joint, so in reality, most people do this, and for dumbbells and barbells, it's sufficient to go down to about the level of the plates. If you think of it as more work than that, it will probably lead to issues, so to avoid that, be mindful of how low the bar or dumbbells go while keeping your back tight and your lower back stable. Finish at the point where your back has a natural curve, and maintaining this position is essential for properly contracting the erector spinae muscles. What this means is that you are using the muscles. However, this is something that is often not consciously acknowledged. Now, regarding the abdominal exercises, even though you think about your abs while doing them, when you are actually performing the movements, you might not be able to move the dumbbells, but you should focus on moving your head and shoulders. There are many patterns where one muscle becomes dominant. Therefore, without imagining anything else, focus on the contraction of the rectus abdominis as it stretches and contracts. While this is at the center, the area around the chest and shoulders is being lifted. The head is just resting on top of this. From here, contract against resistance, maintaining awareness while resisting, with a comprehensive image from above. If you approach your training with the mindset of really engaging the abdominal muscles correctly, you will start to feel them working. As I mentioned earlier, it's important to understand which muscles are primarily engaged in each exercise, focusing on each muscle individually. Having a comprehensive image in mind, as if you are looking at an anatomical diagram, will enhance the precision of your strength training, making it easier to build muscle and improve your physique. However, most people end up doing this. They do what they shouldn't be doing. So, it's important to first get this right. Once you have that down, then you can think about increasing the weight, the number of repetitions, or trying different variations. It's really a case of putting the cart before the horse, as people tend to chase after weight and variations first. This is the biggest mistake in strength training. You need to focus on contracting and stretching the muscles, with the load being a secondary consideration. I really want you to get this part right. If I really start talking about this, it's truly important, so I might end up saying too much, but it's extremely vital. Please start by trying it out from there.
Please subscribe the channel and follow my Instagram and X. I hope to see you next time. ありがとうございます。